Peace and love, y'all. It's your man, Manny Faces. This is Hip Hop Can Save America, the live stream show. Most Mondays streaming live, 9 p.m. Eastern. You might be checking me out on YouTube. You might be checking me out on Substack. I've tried a new thing this week. Well, yeah, this year. I'm also streaming live to Substack. So you might catch me over there. You might not even realize that I've been doing this for a while over on YouTube. Now, probably want you over on YouTube if it's between you and me, but don't tell Substack that. But if you're on YouTube, I also have a newsletter on Substack. So see the synergy, see what we try to do here. Anyway, salute to all y'all for tuning in and turn up with me. Andrew Wang is in the building. Shouts to Fan Vergence Creative Group as well. I could be able to put your little thingies on the screen. There we go. Peace and love. What we do here for first timers and for old timers alike is that we talk about hip hop, music, and culture in ways that aren't often covered by a lot of the media, past entertainment, ways that hip hop, music, and culture can help elevate humanity and inspire change and do all the good things to try to make the world a better place. We have a great interview tonight. I usually interview folks who do that kind of work. It's not just me. I'm just a guy. I'm just spreading the gospel of other people doing amazing work in those areas. We're talking about hip hop and education, hip hop and healthcare, hip hop and technology, hip hop and politics and activism. All of the things that a lot of us feel that the music and the culture really has at its heart. I'm talking about messages and expression and fighting the power and doing all the things. Just because the entertainment business is what it is doesn't mean that we don't still do those things. So great interview tonight with some people who are doing that kind of work. It's our good friends from an organization called Teens Under Construction. And what they do is they work with young people. Look, hold on real quick. I'll just tease it. Teens Under Construction. And I will do this so that you can see it better. How about this one? Yeah? All right, cool. Teens Under Construction, building resilient minds, nurturing healthy hearts, shaping bright futures. This is hip hop therapy. Hip hop being used in a therapeutic manner to help young people, particularly, young people in group settings, in schools. They're up in Westchester, New York. Known them for a very long time. They've got all kind of programming, summer camps. They work with schools. They do all kind of stuff to help young people, youth empowerment, youth development, and all that good stuff. I'll be speaking with Yocasta Jimenez, otherwise known as Yogi, and Shamar Watson, the CEO and COO of the organization, tonight in just mere minutes. So that's what we can get kind of hyped for. Please join us in the chat. Let us know. What up to Murray Foreman, my man, my mellow on the Substack side of things. Yeah, I'm streaming a Substack now. Look at me doing two things at one time. Two streams. Just call me Two Streams from now on. So stupid. Anyway, thanks for checking in. So yes, once again, we have the Substack newsletter. You can check me out there at mannyfaces.substack.com right there. And if you're on Substack, I'm doing this on YouTube. So really, wherever your preference is, probably YouTube would be great because we want that visibility up. But I didn't want to just only bring newsletters to my Substack friends. So you have options, baby. I'll give you options. So again, Teens Under Construction conversation in just a little bit. Shouts once again to Andrew Wang, who is very excited about the conversation. Of course, Andrew Wang is our hip hop from the 914 representative. He's an ambassador for Yonkers and Westchester hip hop. So he knows these folks pretty well, and I know he's excited to hear us talk to them. So once again, we'll be rocking with them in just a little bit. For the first part of the show. And again, I missed you last week. I said I'd be here like all the weeks I could possibly be here. I hope that you're safe and snug and warm wherever you are. We had obviously weather across the country last week. I'm still haven't gotten my groove back, but I'm getting there. So most Mondays I'll be here at 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday nights when I can, when I'm in town. I'm traveling a lot in February. I've got a lot of speaking engagements and talks and stuff and book talks. I wrote a book, blah, blah, blah. It's right up there. We'll talk about that later. Meantime, in between time, enough of me. We're going to get into the segment of the show that I like to start with before we get to the interviews. And it's a segment that I like to call, y'all know what it is, hip hop news that isn't about dumb shit. Boom. Hip hop news that isn't about dumb ish. And what I mean by that is hip hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not the gossipy entertainment stuff. Not that that's all dumb-ish, but you know what I'm trying to say. We don't get into the gossip and the salaciousness and, you know, whatever might be trending on some viral moment or whatever. We try to talk about things that are a little bit more, like I say, in the lane of what we do here, where we talk about hip hop being used to uplift humanity and improve society. You see a lot of these stories I will send you in the newsletter, right? So again, mannyfaces.substack.com. If you're watching on Substack, you're already there. But please subscribe. You just see I put out a newsletter today called Field Notes, where I talked about a few things. Very often, what I'll send out is a list, just a nice curated list of the type of hip hop stories that I'm about to get into. Innovation, inspiration, and insight that, again, you might not be thinking is happening in the world, especially connected to hip hop. So some examples I'll go through with you tonight. These are the hip hop. Yeah, we're on Substack too. Where I'm trying to do a couple of things. I got a good following in Substack, and I got a decent, amount of y'all on YouTube, but I don't know, who knows about the other. So I wanted to cross streams, as they said in Ghostbusters. So here you go. Hip hop news that isn't about dumb-ish this week. You did hear about this probably. I don't think I mentioned it in the last show. I think he passed right after that show. I might have mentioned it. I was not quite sure. So just shouts and, a tip of the hat and, a rest in peace to John Forte, who, of course, was down with the Fugees, the refugee camp. Music Click. This was a good, by the way, I've mentioned them and I've shouted them out before. Speaking of Substack, Shatter the Standards is a really good hip hop and music and black music focused long form journalism site. I'm a little jealous. They put out a lot of good content, and I just don't have the bandwidth to be writing the long pieces all the time like they do. But they're really dope. They'll do some album reviews, and I generally don't think album reviews have a place in the world anymore. Like, we could just listen to the album and review it ourselves. Like, it's so easy now. But they put me onto a couple things that I just didn't even know were out. So for that, I will give that their dedication to hip hop journalism and their taste in music, like 2 thumbs up. So shouts to them. Shatter the Standards did a great piece on John Forte. So there's been a few, obviously. That was pretty big news. And it's an interesting life, interesting character. Obviously had trials and tribulations. It's a good read, and you should give it a few of your, few eyeball times if you can. Switching it to some upcoming events. I'll also in the newsletter, what I'll often put are some interdisciplinary hip hop events. I'm always listing like hip hop college conferences, for example. Art exhibits, things that are happening at maybe a museum or, maybe a community center putting on a project, hip hop theater, like, works. Things that you just, again, don't hear about too much. I compile those things. You'll see a great listing. Look, I'm just telling you right now, if I show you the field notes of this week, I mean, we got a New York University gallery exhibit called Digital Twins, Hip Hop Futurism, Archives, and Algorithms, an immersive exploration of hip hop culture. This is like some real artsy stuff. Fashion Institute of Technology, also in New York City. I happen to be a little New York centric sometimes, even though I'm in Atlanta now. But just because I'm on so many mailing lists and all my peoples are from New York. So I hear about those things a lot. You could also send me your event and I'll be gladly put it into the newsletter. Fly Girls, Women, Hip Hop, and the Power of Style. They'll be doing an event at FIT. So that's coming up. I'll be at the Arca Center for Social Justice Leadership at Kalamazoo College. We're going to be doing a book talk and then a community discussion with another great educator, Dr. Candace Lavender will be there, and we'll be talking about hip hop as, an educative tool. UMass Amherst College of Education, the Black AF Freedom Conference is happening on February 21st. Shouts to Lyrical Faith, poet extraordinaire, who's putting together this conference. There's going to be art. There's going to be performances. Again, Black AF, artistic freedom, but you like the double entendre like I do, I'm sure. Their theme this year is, it's called, I don't have it. They don't have it right here, do they? TV Off. Hip hop for revolution and countering all the bullshit, basically. So come to the Black AF conference if you're near UMass Amherst. Bunch more. This is where you're going to find them on the Hip Hop Save America newsletter on Substack. So in that vein, my good friends also in New York, Mikhail Amin, shouts to my homie Summer, of course, at BAM, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, is putting an event on called Word Sound Power. I'll read from the thing here. It says, returns with an all-new program celebrating women in hip-hop culture. Hey, listen, I know a lot of times we don't hear enough about women being exalted and amplified like they should. And hip-hop could be, kind of misogynistic and all the things. That's because people can be misogynistic, of course, and society can be misogynistic. But we do love to call out when, our women are highlighted as they should be. And BAM is doing that this year with their Word Sound Power. Again, I don't know where else you hear about this stuff, but you're hearing it from me. So again, amplifying femme voices across generations and communities. Join us for a showcase featuring amazing MCs, spoken word artists, and a special guest co-host along with MC Baba Israel and the unparalleled DJ Reborn. Let the music move you and share in this powerful tradition of channeling hip-hop and poetry into an immediate, exhilarating message for the moment. Andrew, yeah, Lincoln Center does it too. I think they did it already. I'm not sure. If you know the date, throw it in there. So again, showing love to the women in hip-hop. We love when we see it and we amplify it when we can. Also in our friends of the show and friends in the education spaces. These folks put on, University of Illinois, these folks put on a hip-hop summer camp. Shouts to Adam Cruz that you see there in the picture. These guys put on an amazing laboratory, a hip-hop artistic laboratory in the university. They put on summer camps. They do all kind of music production, cultural talks, all kind of stuff. And they have now, I don't know, they proposed a degree and then it was supposed to be voted on. And I don't know if it actually passed, but there was going to be a new degree there, which adds to the, assortment of hip hop degrees now in universities. We talked about Howard. We've talked about Loyola. We've talked about the Peabody Conservatory. We've talked about, one of the first ones, Bowie State, right? So more and more, but it's not just like the music or the business or the entrepreneurship. Georgia State has a whole thing going on, of course. Now we're seeing a lot more, where they're bringing the culture, they're bringing all the aspects in, and I appreciate the work that they've been doing there. And they talk about hip-hop not being limited to the arts, a way of thinking, which you hear me talk about all the time, that can be applied across a variety of disciplines: engineering, architecture, science, education, business, therapy, social work, etc. So more of our friends doing that work, bringing hip-hop into the education space, not as a gimmick, not half-assing it, but actually with, the integrity that comes from being 1 foot in the culture and 1 foot in the academic spaces. So it's tricky, doesn't always work. And it's something we always have to watch for. I know there's a lot of folks who are critical of hip hop in the educated spaces, but we call it out when we see it being done, I guess, well. Shouts if you hear me. Give me some thumbs up. Fly Lady Die. That can't be you in the house. Fly Lady Die. Look at you. Thank you for being with me tonight. I know you're normally not available Mondays. It's so nice to see you here, and I miss you much. So yeah, by the way, folks, thumbs up this video. If you're on Substack, yo, what up, Shamika? Hey, what up, sis? I'm trying to see the people checking in there. Angel Radcliffe is on the check-in. Actually, you didn't say anything. I shouldn't have said that. I usually only say hi to people who say something because, y'all might be lurking, but I do appreciate you. It's a new thing. I'm doing Substack and YouTube at the same time. So if you're on YouTube, thumbs up. Obviously, you're commenting. Please share it with your friends. This is something I put a lot of work and time into making this thing happen. So thank you for tuning in, checking out some hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. Let's go, and I'll flip the screen because I like to do things fancy-like. Parade Magazine had a nice article, write-up interview with DMC. We talk about on this show very often, and we're going to get into it tonight with the interview with the folks from Teens Under Construction, hip-hop as a vehicle for discussing and now for dealing with mental health issues. So we see this with DMC, who's for a long time opened up about his life and his struggles with depression and alcoholism and such. And so whenever we see him speaking out about these things, we like to look at one of our icons who's, not afraid to be vulnerable, and we learn lessons from that. And we say, well, if DMC can come on as the king of rock, there is none higher, and talk about, struggles and trials and tribulations, we can pay attention to him. and we can learn from his lesson and pass that on to maybe how we look at our young folk, because he talked about what he was dealing with when he was coming up, and it just gives us a little bit of an insight to somewhat someone that we know kind of through the celebrity lens, to get some real insights. Good article, good breakdown, and a good interview. He's done a few of these recently, so I wanted to point that out. Also, on the tip of rap artists doing something different than just rapping, this was sad news. I enjoyed this. Did anyone watch this show, the Vince Staples show? Anyone catch this show on Netflix? Just dropped like its second season. I haven't caught the second season, but I watched the first season. I thought it was a very clever, sort of weird, artsy, funny, but in a very dry kind of way show that Vince Staples put out. I don't know if you saw it. It struck me as very like wild and interesting. And they canceled it. They canceled the show, unfortunately, after the second season. Normally I'd say, hey, go watch it so that they make sure that the numbers run up and then they renew it, but it's too late for that, I suppose. But if you haven't caught it, it's a good show. I find it to be very interesting. And it's unfortunate. It's good to see artists flexing their muscles in different lanes. I was talking to some folks the last couple of days about, we don't often see hip hop, sort of as that messaging vehicle anymore, because, the industry has become so absurdly capitalistic that there's no room for, conscious rap or, rap with messages, being made out to the mainstream. And, we know that artists do it, and you got to go find them and you got to go support them, and that a lot of them probably don't do it because it's not as lucrative anymore. But what I like about maybe not Vince Staples so much, although there was some social commentary for sure in his show. That's another way that you don't have to, you could be a rapper that doesn't necessarily always rap about, these topics, but you find other ways to do it. I think of Vic Mensa with his Instagram, right? That's the cat, right? With the orange, off the orange tree. He be dropping knowledge, man. That's crazy. He's a rapper, and maybe now you go listen to his music because he's been rapping about this stuff for a while. But he's actually making kind of an impact, plucking oranges from the tree, and I think he's gonna run out of oranges. But I think it's a second tree, so that's dope. But we're seeing some of our artist friends still be artistic, right? Still be creative in a world that doesn't necessarily, I don't know, amplify their music, but it definitely allows them to still have a voice. So pay attention when you see some of those things happening, whether it's, Vince Staples doing a show and having some social commentary, whether it's Vic Mensa, plucking the apples. I mean, so yes, Fly Lady Di says, you could say that was my conversation, but you're not the only one, my friend. For sure, you're the latest of the, I've had this conversation a few times. As you see, I was quite prepared to respond to your Facebook, because I want you to believe. I want you to still have some hope that the things we expect, what we want hip hop music culture to do to kind of fight back against all the stuff. It is happening, just not necessarily how we're used to seeing it. We're used to seeing it, purely in musical forms. But I think that there may be more power in the breadth of ways that our artists can, have reach and make impact. And again, as we're talking about tonight, some of the news, we're seeing this in educational spaces where we're reintroducing the idea of hip hop as a community, as hip hop as expression, as hip hop as, a force for good and for change to young people who aren't getting that. I mean, if it doesn't come from us, where's it gonna come from? You see what I'm saying? They're not gonna get it from the places we got it. Di, I was gonna rant at the end of the show. I don't want to do this now, but we had Lyricist Lounge, we had EO Dub. They don't have those places anymore, but sometimes they do. And I'm saying, I was at Howard University for their hip hop conference, and when I saw young college students talking about like self-empowerment, talking about, pro self, pro black, pro education, pro political having some knowledge. I'm like, oh, okay. It may not be on the radio, it may not be on TikTok, it may not be on Vivo, but it's there. I see it. So I'm just saying, trust me, stick with me. If you're paying attention, watching, if I'll bring it to you, and you let me know afterwards if you have a little bit more hope. That's all I'm asking. A few more. So Samika, okay. The question is how to pass that knowledge to the young ones when they don't listen. I'm going to promise you, okay? Just I'll bring you where we need to go. They will listen. It's a way to get them to listen. And I'm not saying I'm not inventing this, but I've talked to enough educators and other folks that aren't necessarily educators, but do work with young people, like maybe social workers or clinical psychologists or folks who work in community like organizations with young people that have given us the blueprint for that. So it's there. We're trying to amplify it. That's all I'm saying. But shouts to you for that question. That is the question. That is absolutely the question. And you'll hear from it tonight. You'll hear a little bit tonight from our interviewees. I won't take too much longer with the news, because they're going to break it down how they do it, and they've been able to like show it. And if you go back in the archives, if it's your first time listening or watching, go back in the archives. I got plenty of educators, youth-oriented psychologists, school counselors that have been on the show that break down the way they're making it work. And so the answers are there. I promise you. I promise you. Salute to AJ Woodson. What up, brother? JVC Force in a building, Strong Island, Long Island, where I used to rest. Real quick, a few more interesting stories. Like, thumbs up, do all the things, y'all. I'm just one guy. I can't be affording to advertise, so I need y'all. Yeah, so yeah, do that. Thumbs up, spread the word, whatever. In Philly, again, these are the kind of events I'll put on the newsletter, so please subscribe to the newsletter one more time if you don't know. mannyfaces.substack.com. You could also support the show there. It's a free subscription, but as you know, Substack is a reader-supported kind of thing. I do have some great folks who are, have become paid subscribers, and that helps fund all this stuff, so I appreciate them. Philly, Cornbread Legacy. What we make sure we do on this show that we don't do on every other show, not every other outlet, is that we talk about all the elements whenever we can. There's going to be a great retrospective exhibition on cornbread. Of course, if you know cornbread, very much known as the OG of graffiti. I'll read it real quick. This is out in Philly. Paradigm Gallery and Studio is pleased to present Legendary, a solo exhibition. Shut up, y'all. A solo exhibition of original artwork by graffiti legend and pioneer Daryl Cornbread McCrae. After a multi-year global exhibition tour from Amsterdam to Paris to Bogota, Cornbread returns to his hometown of Philly for his largest solo exhibition to date in the city where it all began. So again, this is like graffiti legend, pioneer. And so if you're in Philly, you definitely want to check that out. That runs through, it's open now, and it runs through February 15th. And it's somewhere in Philly. There's a public First Friday reception on February 6th. So if you want to go to like the party, you can do that too. Meanwhile, don't forget, I'll put all these links in the newsletter. So I hope you're tuned in and turned up to the newsletter. Once again, at the bottom there, I'm going to go back to this. Pharrell, you maybe heard about this, and I know I don't like to get into all the gossipy stuff, but this is a pretty big story, and it has to do with intellectual property and, all the interesting legal things that happen in the music business. Pharrell's being sued by his Neptune's partner for withholding some money. So that once heralded pair is, not so good right now. It's an interesting lawsuit if you like the law, if you like, legal stuff. Sean Sotaro wrote this up in Complex. He does a lot of sort of the court coverings. He was covering the Tekashi, trial and stuff like that. But he's a good journalist, and so I respect his work when it comes to the legal things that happen. And so they're fighting, and so it's an interesting story. Read more about it. Go down the rabbit hole and find out what's going on. Is Pharrell, a conniver? Has he stolen some money, or is Chad just looking for a payday? Find out on the next installment of Hip Hop Can Save America. You might have seen us talk about these two wonderful people before. My man Fuchs, Harold Simmons, and his daughter Aura. This is super dope because, again, we talk, look, all the things that you want from hip hop, baby. We have a father-daughter hip hop group that is nominated for a Grammy Award, right? And we knew Fuchs because he used to rock with us in New York City. He used to run into him at Supreme Bars, which was a monthly showcase. I think that's where he used to rock out at. And what a beautiful 1-2 combo. They have been doing music together for a couple of years now. Aura who's 8. And they have, look, I'll play a little clip from the song. Let's do it. Let's do it real quick. And look at this wonderful thing that's happening.
Hey, Aura, do you know what harmony is?
Kinda. Can you explain it to me?
Well, in music, harmony is when you play 2 or more notes together and they sound really good. And in life, harmony is when we live together and work together peacefully. So I'm gonna show you how to harmonize. I'm gonna sing la, and I want you to sing la. Let's try that together. La. Yeah, that's it. Let's try it one more time. La. And your note.
La.
If me and baby girl Faces could sing, we would do this, but neither of us can sing. No, I'm playing. She can sing. I can't sing.
Harmony. Life in harmony.
So, shouts to Fuchs and Aura. Beautiful. Beautiful thing. They're gonna blow up so much. So yeah, nice story about them in the Washington Post, paywalled. So I went around it, but you can find it. You can find a bunch of places. They were on, I want to say, it was Good Morning America, or like one of the morning shows. They've done that too. So if you like this, you got a young kid, you want to show them something real positive about hip hop, yo, just show them my man Fuchs and Aura doing their thing. So shouts to them. Once again, hey, what up, Ian? Ian Levy, doctor, rapper, counselor, birthday boy in the building, Team Aquarius. Y'all know my birthday's Saturday, so you know what I mean? Like, you can give gifts. Like, you can go to patreon.com/Manny Faces. You can, do that if you want to give me a gift. You can do stuff. You go to my Substack. You can, but for right now, it's not my day yet. It's shouts to Ian Levy. What's up, my brother? Good to see you here. So yeah, and again, as I often try to say, it is about the youth them, and we always talk about it here. We tell you that these things exist. I'm trying to tell you. That's why I said tune in tonight. The youth are not. We're not. Everyone. Y'all gotta get out y'all gotta come out from behind your computers, y'all. If you want to see young people still loving hip hop, you gotta come out. You gotta go outside. You got to touch grass. You got to go to the conferences that I tell you about. You got to come to Howard. You got to come to the Black AF conference. You got to come to the Hip Hop Youth and Research Activism Conference at Rutgers. I know it's in these school spaces and we feel like, the college is not where for hip hop. I'm telling you, you'll be so inspired. And I just found out so I've been talking about these people for years. Different places, different colleges, Illinois, all the places. And I only found out about this today. And I'm on top of it. This is my job. And so it warms my heart to see that now there's another place that I can reach out to and be like, yo, tell me about your program. This is the University of Oregon. Oregon. We learned this in my other podcast. Anyway, Oregon. And this is their, it says first year students in the hip hop and the politics of race, first year interest group, called FIG. So it's an interest group. You've heard about like employee interest groups and things like that. And remixing media, critiquing and culture FIG come together through a shared love of hip hop music, culture, and art. Each year, the groups host a hip hop jam and an art show. The jam is a space for students to connect, collaborate, and express themselves creatively and find community. Oh, isn't that what we love about hip hop? Isn't that what we wanted our young people today to do like we did when we just be in the lunchroom or we'd be outside the club after, in a cypher, or we'd be at the park, or we'd be in the basement and just rapping and just DJing or just hanging out like community. And well, don't tell me. You can't tell me that the youth don't do this anymore. Check it out.
I I think what's really interesting and like kind of different than other genres of music is the amount of elements that go into it to make hip-hop what it is.
Hip-hop has really been influenced by societal issues.
I think it's just such a rich and vibrant, cool, amazing culture with, you know, its own dance style, its own visual art, its own spoken word, and then the music itself.
Students can come together and bond on that shared interest in hip-hop and to come together and create the jam.
So it's been nice to start off my whole school journey with like doing all of this, you know, that pertains to my interest.
Joining the first year interest group and like being a part of that community has been very nice. And so having kind of that base community I can talk to and people I know, it's all great.
Instead of starting off with just gen eds, which was my plan, it's been a lot of fun to just go in and do some art, learn more about the techniques of things like digital art, things like critique, things like setting up a show.
In your first term as a student, be able to put on a hip-hop jam for the community and like for the culture and to carry that through.
I've always been interested in it, but now like having this actual educational like framework gives me a whole new outlook.
So I think it's a way of taking the cerebral sort of academic stuff and packaging it into something that everybody can enjoy.
So yes, once again, all is not lost, my friends. The young people are ready for us to help them help themselves, and then now to take it to the next level. I see it every year at the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference at Rutgers. I'm a mentor in the program. I speak. I help lead the workshop. Shouts to Dr. Lauren Kelly. Shouts to McCallumine. Shouts to Ian Levy. Shouts to, you know, Rutgers for putting that on every year. This is the University of Oregon. I just found out about this today. And they've been doing it. So, and I'm, like I said, I'm supposed to know about this stuff. So the amount of stuff that folks just don't know is out there happening, let's try to tune in a little bit more so that we can support the people who are doing this and, you know, help them. If you're in Oregon, if you live near wherever this is, like, hey, I'm a hip hop head, I'm a DJ, or can I come help? Like as grown folk, that's what we need to do. Hey, can I volunteer? Can I come in? You know, can I talk to my church or my community or wherever I be somewhere and bring some youth? Do you put on stuff with the community, or is it just for the students? And when we can do more of that, then we'll start to see like more of the stuff that a lot of us are looking for from the culture and from people in it and around it. But it's happening, y'all. I've been telling y'all. This is why we do this. Hip hop can save America. Shouts to Raphael Travis in the building. My man, my mellow. I want to say hi to you. AJ Woodson saying hi. Man, Oregon got hip hop. Everyone got hip hop. Everywhere is hip hop. So yeah, that's it. That is oops. I like to put that banner back on the bottom. And lastly, I'll say this. The other thing that a lot of folks are looking for who would follow this show, right? Not the type of people who would follow, you know, some of the other type of shows that just talk about like the music and the artists and the beefs and the who dropped something and whatever. Cool, it's a place for that. Go there for that. Is that we often find it difficult to find music that we like. We might have different traditional sounds that we vibe towards. We might be older, we might be younger, but we like more of a, you know, a boom bap aesthetic, you know, a boom bap aesthetic. We might, you know, just have different. We might like more lyrical stuff. We might like more experimental type stuff than like what the industry kind of puts out as formula these days. And that's fine. It's fine if you like what's on the radio. I really don't care. Whatever you want to find. So in the newsletter, if you go back a few episodes, editions, I gave some places that you could find that type of music. Shouts to Don Will, who has a great Substack and puts out that kind of music. Shouts to my man Wally Hart, who has a Facebook page and is always putting out those kind of drops. Shouts to DJ Hoodwink, who just put out an amazing year-end mixtape of songs that include, I wrote it in the newsletter, empowering songs, thoughtful songs, introspective songs, not just necessarily like preachy stuff, because some of the stuff is grimy as hell. But even in the grimy, you could find nuggets, and not everything is as bad as we've been made it out to be. And we'll talk about that again in a few minutes as I transition to our wonderful interview that y'all been waiting for. Right, of course, DJ Absurd as well, Darren Shabbat. DJ Absurd puts out a mix 2 hours long every single week for like 900,000 weeks of music that if you like, for the lack of a better term, if you like older hip hop, if that's like in your DNA, and some of that stuff is brand new. So again, just telling anyone who might be watching for the first time, who doesn't know how I get down, y'all can't complain and say it doesn't exist. You cannot, in good conscience, say that that stuff doesn't exist. You can, like, respectfully just say, I don't see it. That's my job. So stick with me and you will see it. I want to see if this pans out. This is the last bit of news and then we'll get to the interview. Red Bull, who does a decent job of, carrying the breaking tradition forward. And I know there'll be breakers who will disagree. I get it. I hear all sides. I understand. Freestyle Session is to me the more sort of authentic, non-commercial, but authentic organization. So if you really want to keep up with breaking, and we talked about this after the Olympics, fiasco. If you really want to keep up with breaking in the U.S. particularly, follow Freestyle Session. They have regional, qualifying championships, and then they have a world finals, which is happening, I think, in April in California, which I've been to. Outstanding. And and I'm talking about all ages, genders. I'm talking about 7 and 8 and 9-year-olds killing it. So breaking, again, alive and well, baby. Don't tell me that the Olympics, see what they did, they ruined the culture. No. Again, respectfully, you just don't see it. It's my job. Stick with me and I'll show you. That being said, Red Bull's now doing a Mic Flex series. I don't know how it'll pan out. We'll have to see. I guess it's sort of like that online, what's that thing with the green? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Where just people come in and just spit on the record, or what is it? Y'all know what I'm talking about. We're just, if you watch it enough, you'll probably come across somebody, that's got some skill. You might have to watch a few, but you might see somebody pop up. So let's see what Red Bull does. Let's hold them their mics to the fire, and see what they do. Shouts to you, Bob Knutson. I appreciate you. I'm definitely gonna be weekly as much as I can. So most weeks, I like to say. So we'll check out Red Bull. We'll see if we can find some new artists. But again, stick with me. The newsletter. I'm usually putting you on. I'm a DJ. Nobody's written me and said, "Hey, Manny, your suggestions are horrible." Everyone was like, "Yo, thanks for putting me on." And as DJs, especially in hip hop, you live to just put people on. With that, my friends, that is this week's edition of
hip hop news that isn't about dumb shit.
So, dang it. It was almost perfect. Okay, there you go. I'm back. So, thank you again. Again, my name's Manny Faces. If you're tuning in for the first time, it's so good to be back with y'all again on a little bit of a vibe. We've got some people checking in on Substack for the first time. It's my first time streaming over there. Substack, come see me on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Manny Faces. And if you're on YouTube, please do subscribe to the newsletter that I'm talking about on Substack, because again, super valuable information. If you don't have time to sit and watch a video, how you have to work. I hope you're subscribed. If you ain't been subscribed all this time, girlfriend, but we'll get you subscribed. And again, you could definitely support. We have a few good patrons and Substack paid subscribers, so I'm going to start shouting out by name again once I go through and see who left and who's joined recently. It really helps. All this stuff costs money. I'm getting speaking gigs now, which is nice. I wrote a book. That's cool. Not a very good book deal. I ain't making no money from it. And there's not a lot of people who want to talk about hip hop like this. But the ones that do, I'm there for y'all. So in the meantime, until, we can really spice this up a bit, I appreciate your donations. I appreciate you doing the Substack monthly. Thank you very much. It does help. With all that being said, let me now, enough of me talking, and giving you all the gems I can, and give you the interview for this week. Now, this will also appear as a standalone interview tomorrow. You could always obviously run the run it back. Thank you, Andrew. You are a OG supporter, and I do appreciate you. And you are the first name to be mentioned, so thank you for that. Di, I know. Let me tell you something, Fly Lady Di. I don't know anybody else that supported hip hop, especially local independent hip hop, people that they know, people that they were friends with, that they became like you are like the epitome of what it means to support an independent music scene in a city. I've known it, and I know, because we go back and we did it together. Because I'm the other one that did it about to the level that you did. Although you was putting in a lot, work longer than I was. When I got in there, I was putting in just as hard. And you're an inspiration, and I know that's why when you had that talk about, I wish it was, I know I got you though. But we're here now, and we can still get that old feeling back, just in different ways. So I do appreciate you as well. Word. What is my Cash App? I have all the. I'll tell you in a minute. I'll put it up in the chat during the interview. Thank you, AJ. I appreciate you. And to anyone else who wants to join in, because I know like the subscription thing gets a little dicey. You want to do that? I'll give you my Cash App for sure. Anyway, that all being said, allow me to have a drink. I'll be talking. Here it is. I want to talk. I've been wanting to talk to these folks for a long time. Again, we do a lot of education-based stuff. We do a lot of stuff to talk about youth empowerment. This is something that sits like on the cusp of that, although not just purely in educational spaces. I talked to Yocasta Jimenez, Yogi, and brother. Dang it, I just had it. Y'all know his name. Say his name for me in the chat, damn it. I just met him, so I forgot his name. Look, it's been a long day. The folks from Teens Under Construction that have been doing really great work for a number of years in the what they call the home of hip hop therapy, and they've worked with young people in a lot of ways to help them, deal with all this, right, through hip hop. As we did it when we came up, we just did it. We didn't know it was a thing. We felt it, we engaged with it, and it helped us get through all of our this. But now we have folks that are in positions that can be like, okay, let's channel it. Let's do it. Let's put it together in a way that helps our young people with intent, with purpose, and through these institutions that can help support us so that we can do it to scale. All right? Shamar Watson, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew always coming through when I be messing up. Don't forget, a lot of people do these shows. They have a producer or somebody speaking in there. I ain't got nobody. It's me and my dogs. They don't do nothing. They are very useless. That being said, let's get into it. My talk with Yocasta, Yogi Jimenez, and Shane Watson. Shamar, I still got it wrong. I'm just going to stop talking. This is it for this week, y'all. Hip-hop therapy with teens under construction. Let's check it out. Peace and love. Thank you for joining me today on Hip Hop Can Save America. This is another one of the long overdue ones. People have been out here doing this work for quite a long time, and I'm still slow to catch up to everyone and get everyone here. But thank you for taking the time to rock with me. Long overdue. Please do me a favor. I could read your bios, and all these things change on a day-to-day because sometimes we're doing something today we didn't do yesterday. Please introduce yourselves as you would like yourself presented to the world in the context of why we're talking today.
Absolutely. My name is Yocasta Jimenez. I'm better known as Miss Yogi, the hip hop therapist. I am the founder and CEO of this here Teens Under Construction, the home of hip hop therapy. And that's what we do. We do hip hop therapy. We bring hip hop throughout the state. And whenever it takes us out of state, that's even better. We've done work, we're currently doing work with the Department of Corrections. We do work with the Department of Social Services, a lot of juvenile justice programs that we do. And it's really utilizing hip hop as a cultural connection with a lot of the folks that we work with.
Top of the evening, everyone, brother. Thank you for having us. My name is Shamar. I'm the vice president of Teens Under Construction. Hip hop is more than just music. It's a culture, it's a language. This is why we do the work. As two licensed social workers, this is permanent in the work that we do in and outside of everyday work. Something Yogi want to add as well is that we also do a lot of community outreach. We do a free store in the community every year. We do back to school drive. We do sneaker drive. You name it, we out there. We do this work because we love what we do.
Yes, indeed. Y'all got your elevator pitches down pat, man. Listen, let me tell you. You can tell you've been doing this for a minute. So let's start at the
not the end, but start at the current. I do want to hear about what some of the stuff that you do on, that you just rattled off some of the programming and some of the actual things you do. And then we'll talk a little bit about maybe how we got here. But for those who are the uninitiated, don't understand, first of all, you said y'all community, y'all state, where you at? Where you repping?
So I originally rep the BX because that's where we're from.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe that's where hip hop started, so we could never leave home alone.
Fair enough.
But I currently reside upstate, which is, that's like a boohoo for Bronx. But I had to go where I can afford, and upstate was where it was at.
Yeah. All right. Maybe the new mayor will fix some of that. Go on. Right, though. Well, I'm a Long Island guy, so I always get the it's not as bad as upstate though. So let's go Strong Island in effect.
Right, you're right. Strong Island,
but I did the thing that New Yorkers do when I moved to Atlanta, so I get it. It's all good. Everything happens.
Yeah.
So tell me what goes on wherever you're setting up shop. Obviously, like I said, all around the state, in the juvenile detention centers, in the institutional spaces, what that looks like from a programming level to folks who don't even. I'll never know who stumbles onto this. Say hip hop and therapy. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We know all about it. Or those words don't belong together. So to someone who maybe, is coming here like, I don't really understand this concept just off jump, what is some of the things that you do where you do blend the music, the culture, and, the sensibilities and the ethos into traditional, like I said, y'all are SLC, the thing.
Yeah. Acronym. LMSW.
Right. So as traditionally trained, right, but also from the culture, how do y'all put those things together, and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis, or a couple examples of what that looks like?
So I'll talk a little bit about the work that we do at DOC, and I'll let Shamar share a little bit of the work that we do directly with the youth. So hip hop is a way to connect with people, right? I often say that depression existed in hip hop before we were allowed to be depressed, right? We come from an era where mental health, for lack of better terms, wasn't allowed, right? Like you couldn't just go and tell your parents, I'm depressed. Like you have to have a reason to be depressed. But we could go back.
I'll give you something to be depressed about.
Musicians, the bills, right? Like you need to be nervous, right? So it's really touchy, especially for urban communities, right? Where we don't talk about our business outside. And I always joke that, what happens in this house stays in this house. And then you send us to therapy and we're sitting there like, I'm not supposed to say what happened in the house. Right.
Right.
So, but I often talk about how depression has existed within hip hop since way back when, right? That's how it started, right? People telling their stories, the CNN of the Black community. So we really hone into that. We play tracks like Naughty by Nature's Everything's Gonna Be Okay. We talk about Ghetto Boys, My Mind is Playing Tricks on Me. The title of the song in itself is talking about mental health. And when you go through the lyrics, right, when he's saying, I often drift when I drive, having thoughts of suicide, right? That connects directly to mental health and what we talk about. He talks about paranoia. He talks about getting kicked out the house. He talks about how he deals with his lady based on what he's doing. And so we've just taken and really honed that in. And it's like, this is how we've been telling our story. This has been therapy since day one. We just never really honed into looking at it as therapy because therapy is such a taboo.
Yeah. So it makes sense to us because we're from, and we know this, and we were, like you said, listening to songs like that and already getting the gems without it being told, without us knowing what we're doing, right? Inherently, we knew that this was doing to us was we were listening as we were growing up, and so young people, same thing. They're getting it through the music, but they're not realizing that that's actual. Like you said, it was therapy to us, but we don't look at it that way. So, what do some of the parallels between sort of traditional training, the real nerdy stuff that y'all had to, go to school for, and how that translates? So you can listen to lyrics, and I get that that's sort of on a cursory level. It makes sense. You're hearing people. You're not alone. Representation matters. You're getting it from, that this exists out in the world. It's not just you. What does that do from a clinical standpoint that most people don't, not say most people, but a lot of people don't look at music, and especially hip hop and rap, as being capable of doing?
So that's a phenomenal question. One of the things that we often have to express when we explain hip hop therapy is that you see the word hip hop, oftentimes people, they negate therapy, right? It's all about, hip hop. Every time we do a presentation, before we start presenting, people think we're either we're MCs, where we're going to actually sign up with music producers. And it's like, no, we're clinicians. We go over the elements of hip hop, we break it down, right? And hip hop therapy, it teaches you about emotional regulation, how to regulate these emotions that you're going through. Oftentimes, one of our downfalls as adults, when young people are listening to music, we often say, "Oh, that's not real music."
Right.
And people used to say that about our music, right? But there's a
100%.
message in the music. So it's about analyzing it, it's about breaking it down. So as clinicians, we use music as a conduit to those conversations about mental health, about telling their story, right? About narrating. So you think about it about an MC. What is an MC doing? Telling their story. And it's about connecting, like, oh my goodness, someone is saying how I feel, but I can't necessarily put it into words, but they're saying it for me. And we're able to explore that. And like I said, hip hop talks about community. It talks about struggle, but it also talks about empowerment. It talks about resilience. It
Yeah.
tells a story. And oftentimes, as adults, we have to get comfortable with having these uncomfortable conversations with young people and even young adults, right? Because if it's not addressed as a kid, it manifests into adulthood.
That's right.
And that's how trauma continues because we don't address it when we're younger. So we address it through the music, through the art of graffiti, through the art of breakdancing, and the art of emceeing with our young people.
And I'll just
Yeah.
add to that, right? That rhythm helps regulate breathing, which helps regulate the nervous
Right.
system, right? And I think we're actually doing a workshop tomorrow morning where we're doing a mindfulness exercise. And nobody thinks about hip hop when you think about mindfulness, but we're having mindfulness to a hip hop song because
Right.
it's doable.
Right. I mean that, and I've talked about this, on the show before, but sort of the idea of it's what's the word? Not psychosomatic. I'm not smart enough to say words like that. It make you feel good. It makes you settle down. I make beats. I'm a DJ. Like sometimes that repetitive beats, the repetition. We've talked about it a couple times where it creates a sense of calm. It creates a sense of structure. And for folks that are like that triggers something in their mind that settles them down, like you said, regulates emotion.
Mhm.
That's what we get naturally when we mess with music like that.
Absolutely.
What's you're a DJ, so DJ, that's a skill that you have, right? So let's think of clinically for a second.
Yeah.
What's the one skill you need as a DJ? What does a DJ need to have?
Hand-eye coordination, a sense of rhythm.
So when you're at a party, right? You know your
Yeah.
party jumping. You have to be able to read the crowd.
Oh,
You
in
have to have
a live situation,
mindfulness.
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Mindfulness,
right. Right.
Yeah.
That's social emotional
Don't say
learning.
emotional learning. Come on, man. You got it.
Emotional intelligence.
Right. Emotional intelligence. Right. Right. Same thing with the cipher. We've had Tony Blackman. We've had people talk about the cipher in depth, and it's like you don't raise your hand to go in the cipher. You just know when to go in the cipher. It's a collective communal understanding that happens without words, without instruction manuals, and it's something that if we apply to other areas of our lives, which is the whole key to all of this stuff, is that the lessons we learned from hip hop are transferable into these other sectors. To your point earlier, and I've said this many times, but again, never know who's the first time watcher. I often joke that like back in the days, some of the older hip hop heads, look at the younger hip hop heads and their type of music, and obviously we don't align and whatever. I've heard this said, you've heard this said. I'm sure somebody watching or listening has heard this said. We used to rap about selling drugs, man. All these kids rap about is taking drugs.
Yes.
And so watch Twitch, I'll be like, well, the first was better. Like it's, what are we doing? But also I think the idea, the implication there is that, well, these kids today are soft. They live in a soft life. It was hard and rugged when we were living in, and life is soft right now. And I'm like, I don't know that I would look at my kid, my young daughter or son that for some reason connects to an artist who's rapping or singing about self-medicating, going through these feelings, which you hear more in music now than you did back in our days. And my kid is connecting to that artist for some reason. I think it would behoove me as a parent to not say, your music sucks and walk out the door.
Yes.
It might help if I just be like, hey man, what's wrong?
Yep. And you know what? When we do parent workshops, we talk about that, right? We have a parent workshop called Reading Between the Lyrics. And it's like if you're listening to Juice World and how he was saying, right? I'm right. I'm taking these prescriptions and I'm staying in my room. And even when Meek Mill says, right, I'm no PTSD, the pills keep it at ease, right? This is the same thing that these are discussions we're having with young people, right? If you have these in your ears all day and that's what you continuously repeat, there's a connection there. And it's important for us as adults to just take a minute sometimes and listen to what young people are listening to.
Yeah.
Because it'll open our eyes and gives us a sense of what they might be going through, what they might be experiencing.
When you bring this to young folk, especially, again, either in schools or in institutional spaces or in, like you said, Department of Corrections, what do you see, what benefit does that have to them that they're not getting from other programs that's supposed to help them, or, lack of that sort of thing altogether, which happens a lot? What are they getting specifically from hip hop based therapy? The stuff y'all doing, like, you could tell me holistically, or you could tell me specifically. What's something you see that they're benefiting from this directly?
So I'm gonna give you two, and I'm gonna let Shamar give you two because I can be long, right? So,
okay. Well, more the
so
merrier.
I'm gonna focus on what we do at DOC, right? At the Department of Corrections. It brings them a sense of belonging, right? And it gives them a sense of being able to express themselves in a space where they're not going to be judged because we are all alike in one way or another. And hip hop brings us together, right? So to your point, and shout outs to you, right? Hip hop can save America, right? So what we do is that we really allow them to utilize music and the connection to express themselves and to remind them that just because they're men doesn't mean that they're emotionless, which is what society has often said, right? So to your point, if as a male you cry, you're weak, right? If you're not doing what we identify as manly stuff, now you're considered a weak. That's considered weak for your trait. And when we conclude at the Department of Correction, we finish with a cipher. And to me, the cipher is always what takes us overtime. The CEO is like, yo, y'all gotta go. And I'm like, wait, what more person gotta go? Right? Right now we have this Jamaican gentleman he gets into it, and I don't want to leave the jail. And everybody wants to leave jail, right? But freestyling gives you control, right? And I think in that moment they feel in control where they can share how they're saying, and everybody's just cheering on. And I'll let Shamar pick up from there.
So Yogi's point is about connecting and telling your story without the borders, right? You're not judging. And it's funny because one of the questions we always ask, no matter if we work with young men or young women, we ask, what are your thoughts about therapy? Sometimes I don't believe it doesn't work. They don't realize what we're doing is therapeutic. And like when they're expressing themselves, it was a young brother we worked with last week. And he said, well, I don't believe in therapy because they just did to get a paycheck. No one believes in me. No one cares about me. They're not really genuine. And then he goes off and telling his story. And at the end, we're talking, this was therapy. He's like, no, was it? I was talking. I was like, I know.
It's called talk therapy.
People are like mind blown because he may not be sitting in the suit and everything. And how does that make you feel? It's untraditional. And we still get the work done. It's about seeing people where they're at and also understanding that we are not the expert of your life. We're never going to promise you and say, hey, it's going to be okay, because we don't know that. We don't have that much power. We can say, hey, we're going to help you get there. But to say that it's going to be okay when you walk out of here, that's a huge task and a promise to make that we make sure that we don't create.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's a very real, way of approaching it. And I guess real recognize real, even if they don't recognize what they're really doing, it's, medicine in the applesauce, you know how it is.
Right.
But and I've started to think about this a lot more. I mean, I've always thought this. And again, what I love about the work that y'all do and so many people that talk to on the show, one of the things, like a real superpower is that y'all help translate what hip hop heads or what folks who are just engaged in the culture, don't even have to be an artist but just, surrounded by the culture, what we do naturally, right? We just do, like I said, the cipher, the emotional intelligence, all that stuff. It comes naturally. And then you get put into these situations where it's, I want to bring the idea of hip hop into therapy. And it makes people think that hip hop makes hip hop makes therapy better. But I like to think of it as hip hop is already therapy. Right? It's not making therapy. I mean, it is. It's making like traditional therapy better, I guess, because you're able to do things you're able to affect folks in these settings that it's non-traditional, right? But it's not that it makes it better. It's just that it's a whole different thing in of itself. Does that make sense? Is that how I'm looking at it, right? And how we should be positioning this?
I do. I think so. Like I said, I think that our therapy initially was hip hop, right? We came out, we told our stories. I mean, you
Right.
know, I automatically start thinking of quotes that's at 80% verses in my head. But I think about what was their name when they said 40 Wu-Tang, 40 of us in the back of a bus, life shouldn't be
Yeah.
so right. When we think about Old Dirty Bastard, when we think about them talking about how they were smoking wounds in the staircase in the staircase at the age of 14, right? That was them expressing themselves. This is exactly the conversation you would have with me in therapy. Only that in therapy, I'm going to be able to build you with some skills so that you don't have to turn to smoking wounds at the age of 14, right? That you have a different angle, that you have a different skill to address it. What hip hop does for us is really open up the space for us to be able to have a conversation and teach you those skills without you feeling so honed into the therapeutic space, right? And to me, therapy, it was just a way of taking hip hop and making it cohesive, right? So the insurance can pay for you to get therapy because they're not going to pay for you to go to the studio booth, right?
That's right.
Oh, when they come see us, we take them to the studio booth, right? And so I think that's just like a conduit of how that went, right? It was hip hop. Hip hop opened up some doors. And then we took the therapy and said, you know what, these skills are important. If these things that we're teaching in conventional therapy are important, so how do we utilize that to continue the work through that hip hop already started?
Where in your personal journeys which the chicken or the egg, did like hip hop, like did you recognize hip hop as a therapeutic thing and then say, now I want to get into therapy? Or did you somehow get into therapy and then realize, I could work these angles? Like what got you into this path?
So what got me into this path? I always say that my lifelong journey has been impacted by the way I was raised. I'm from Hunts Point in the South Bronx.
Okay.
And so therapy was not even a word that I knew growing up. And people laugh, and I'm like, I'm dead serious. Like, we didn't talk about therapy. Therapy wasn't a discussion. I went through some trials and tribulations. I dropped out of high school when I was in ninth grade. I had my first kid by 15, my second one by 17. Story continues. Spent some time being homeless. Went back to doing what I did, being out in the streets, which cost me some time being locked up. And even though I've always I've always loved music, it wasn't until that moment, right? And we often have this discussion with the incarcerated individuals that I didn't have a time to sit down and think about life, right? And at that time, the song that kept playing and I really started listening and paying attention to was "What About Your Friends" from TLC, right? And that verse, right? What about your friends? Will they be there proud? Will they stand, or will they let you down again? And when you're locked up, you start to recognize who's going to be around and who's not, right?
For sure.
And just be from the hood, you come home and everybody has, and just in transparency, everybody has a bottle, everybody has a blunt to give you, but no one has nothing good. Nobody says, yo, get out the streets, right? Nobody says, yo, here's somebody to help you with a resume. Go get a job instead of doing this, right? But they're ready to pop bottles, light up blunts and stuff like that. And so I realized that, wow, the only thing I have is music. And as I went into my social work career, because I like hoodies and jeans, I didn't feel like I fit there neither. Everybody was suited and booted. And I'm like, this don't feel right for me. And I said, you know what? We're going to do something different and we're going to do what works. And hip hop works. And so, voila.
There you go.
So for me, hip hop was more about telling a story. I remember just working my early career, had to be suited, booted, dressed up, and hip hop was that outlet. It was that from 9 to 5 is over. Now you put that music on, and now you get to be your true authentic self without worrying about being judged.
Right. Right.
And that's the story for me for hip hop, because growing up in the Bronx, growing up on Gunnell, it was therapeutic. It was music, but people often, to your point, music is healing and the therapeutic. It's not just hip hop, right? Any genre of music you listen to, it's about connecting and telling a story. And as a man growing up, sometimes you wear that mask, and wearing that mask, you don't show your vulnerability, and you're like, wow, nobody understands what you're truly going through. But you put on that certain song that resonates with you and it motivates you, and you take the message from the song. And the message is the healing part. You don't have to sit in front of a clinician for therapy.
Right.
You can sit in front of
right.
You have to be preached
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was preaching. He was really preaching for sure. Yeah. And again, you know, I remember this growing up, and you know, I'm about to, we all, well, I might be a little older, but you know, I'm about the same age as hip hop. Grew up, you know, parallel to it. I'm in Long Island, so every Friday night, Saturday night, you know, Mr. Magic and Red Alert on the radio, and you know, we're in my man Craig basement, and we're just, and then so when those moments happen, when those songs come on, that not just party songs, even though even sometimes the party songs, like there'll be something that clicks, and you'll turn to your friend, and your friend will be like, "Yo, that was an ill line," or "That was a, you know," or "Yeah, that, yo, same thing happened to me." And you have these moments where it's starting to help bridge, you know, create those conversations.
Yeah.
Create those conversations. And yeah, you get that from all kind of music. But I feel like hip hop just has always had this more of a communal kind of thing, more of a each one teach one presence, more of a, you know, we've got our own thing, you know, here, and it's a safe space here. And plus, I always say with hip hop, like there's so many, we got so many words per square inch than any other genre of music. You just got more things that could be expressed, more stuff that can be talked about. And I mean, you're not gonna find another genre that got songs about picking boogers, bro. Like there's so much content, you know, and so there's so many lanes to choose from when you're trying to say, hey, where can I find ways to relate through this genre?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I even talk about the positive and the negative, right? Doesn't matter what song you hear. We could talk
Right.
about like slipping, right? And still the chorus of his song says, I still gotta get up and you know, and I you know, and tear stuff up, right?
Yeah,
So even though
right.
he's talking about how dark his life is, he's still talking about the resilience piece, which we as clinicians preach, right? Building that resiliency and being able to bounce back from things. And so we utilize moments like that and bars like that to really hone in on that. And I think for a lot of folks, it doesn't matter what song we play, there's a way to connect to it, right? We can go all the way back to Slick Rick and play a children's story, and everybody's there like, yeah, I got with a kid that, you know, that took the wrong path, and this is where I ended up at.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. How much do you get to, and again, we talked about this earlier about like sort of the newer music. So young kids, you know, that are, you know, I know you probably you got to stay tuned in. And by the way, with all that I said before, yeah, some of the music sucks. I get it. I understand. But you know, again, but some of it doesn't, you know what I mean? To be honest. And so we have to stay, you know, open-minded and stay plugged into what our kid, I got a 10-year-old, I got an 11-year-old. I know about 6, 7. I know all this stuff before you know what I mean? Come on. I get all this and I stay tuned. I've had kids from, you know, it was great. I had kids like in like different generations. So I've always been able to stay up on things. But I think we have to make an effort as parents to do that. Certainly as folks that are I would say in charge of kids, but you know, like when you have young people in your care, you know, so how do you do that? How do you stay tuned in? Do you, you know, search the internet? Do you watch, you know, some of these podcasts? Do you talk to how do you stay up on it? Because we always preach it. I tell all the time, the adults, we got to stay on top of what these kids are into. How do you do that? What's a good way to do that?
I'll give a quick one. So 2 years ago, last year we were asked to go to Rochester, like 2 years in a row, to do a workshop with the high school students on drill music. But we both looked at each other like, all right, we're gonna have to but you got to go to the lab.
Yeah,
we had to play the drill music. We had to ask them, what are they listening to? Even with the DOC, when we work with the boot camp, the young cats, we got to say, okay, what are you listening to? Because there's some stuff we haven't heard. So
100%.
we got to sit there and we got to become a student again and say, okay, why are they listening to this? What's the message? And that's how we get into it. So we ask them, like I said, we don't come in as the experts. We want to know why you listen to it, what's connecting you to that music, and what stands out. I mean, the music, the song's only like 2 minutes anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's funny.
I got she gave me a song with like 1 minute and 36 seconds. I was like, wait, I have to hear it again. I think I missed the message. Right. So, but we get a list of songs and we listen to them and we try to connect too.
As seasoned individuals that we are, when we're talking to, you know, again, young kids, teens and such, and their music, and you do that, you start listening to things. Do you have an example of like something that I can give you one, but I want to see if you have where like you didn't realize the depth of something that they were listening. You know, maybe we kind of don't see it. We see it at a surface level, and then they explain it to us. And it's like, oh, and it gives us some real insight into how our young folks are looking at the world.
Well, I think on that perspective, right? If you go on my playlist, is everything old school, right? Everything from
I know. Yeah.
Right. So what I think was a standout for me, I think it was a song by Leaf Ward, right? Because I'm not really listening to it. So I think the voila moment was that moment when somebody said, play this song, and it was a drill song. and we actually took the time out to listen and to understand why they connected to that song, right? Rod Wave was another one, right? And the other part of that, right, is that even if we turn on the radio or we listen to drill, what the radio is playing is not necessarily what the album is about. They just take that
Right.
one song that's gonna make you come back to listen to the radio. But we don't do like back in the days. We don't listen to every song and pull out the big rollout thing to read the words, right?
Right.
So that doesn't happen anymore. And so I think that to me that was the moment. Like now I got like the rock wave in my playlist. I got some
Yeah.
before. I got some folks that names I probably can't remember right now. But I'm like, oh, listen to this track. You know?
We
Yeah.
had one particular story. It was a Jadakiss song, "Smoking Guns." We
Mm.
did we played it maybe a year ago for a young lady. She got up and walked out, and she did, like, after the group was over, we went to connect with her and say, "So what's going on?" She said, she said that song speaks to my story, and she
Mm.
said, "I've never told my story, but
Mm.
that song told my story."
Mm.
And once again, like I said, sometimes you can't put things into words. When
Yeah.
we see students one on one or young people one on one, when we have these conversations, sometimes music is the way they communicate.
Right.
They,
Right.
they can't put the words out there. They want to. They say, "I can't tell you, but you know what? We be like, what song you want to listen to?" And when you
Right.
listen to it, your heart pours for them. It pours because you're like, wow, this young person sitting there looking like have it all together, but on the inside they tearing up.
Right.
And
Right.
that
And
was
they're
the
giving you that's dope. Yeah. And they're giving you like a little, like, just here, listen to this.
yes,
Yeah. Just I can't just
yes,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
So I guess the example I have is sort of like that. My son is older, he's in his 30s. A few years ago, it was and and again, pardon anyone who's heard me tell this story, but it's actually, it was a very big moment for me too. And it was Super Gremlin. The song Super Gremlin was out, right? And I'm like, all right, whatever. I hear it. It's on the radio. It's all over the place. And I'm like, I don't like Kodak. I don't like it. It's whatever. I'm not into it. I'm not. But I hear it, and I'm like, all right, I know it exists, and I know it's popular. And I guess that year, Big Lotto was out, and she had a song called Big Dick Energy. Okay. And it was like a VMAs or a BET, whatever awards. And they were kind of up in the same category for like Song of the Year. And Big Lotto won. And I remember saying something to my son, who's a little bit more like, from the cut, he's not a big party guy. He's definitely, a Super Gremlin type listener. And I was like, nah, yeah, that makes sense. It was an upbeat song. It was like the song of the summer. A lot of people, vibing to it. It was in the clubs, it was in the parties. He's like, nah, man, that song is stupid. I'm like, all right, but that song is stupid. He's like, no, it's not, man. And I'm like, tell me why it's not stupid. And he starts telling me, and again, like, I hadn't really paid attention to the damn song. And this why, it's my fault. He goes, look, man, it's about, look, man, it's his man and them, they come up together, like they come from the street, they doing the same thing, and then they do everything together, they help each other out, they get famous, and then one start acting funny, the other one starts blaming the other one for all the stuff. And it's a whole, and now we not cool no more, and da-da-da. And he breaks down this whole story of what's essentially like a breach of trust, right? A loyalty issue, right? Something that he didn't find, a friendship that was broken up. And he didn't have to tell me like that there's something in his life that resonate. That's why because somebody was disloyal to him. I could see that there was something there. So the two things. Number one, it let me know that, all right, some of these songs are actually saying something, even though legitimately we can't understand what they're saying half the time. And that's just because we have a different dialect. We're older. We don't listen. We're not from the same, part of the country. And, to say that, mumble rap is unintelligible, is kind of, it's kind of messed up sometimes. It can be viewed as some folks who say it's almost prejudicial. It's almost racist to just say that these folks are talking this way. You can't understand them. But if you listen to what's behind the songs, kids listen. They know what they're saying. These are words. These are human beings saying words. And it gave me an idea of what was valuable to my son that he never had expressed to me in 30-something years of living. And he was like, nah, he didn't say to me, hey, Dad, just by the way, loyalty. Big for me. Like, he didn't say that. We never had that conversation. But delving into his musical tastes and finally getting that out of him, now I learned something about him that day. And how else would I have known that? So I definitely look at this as being a necessity for us to do as older folks.
I think another benefit that we have is that we work in a high school, right, during the day. So we
Yeah.
have like very long days. We start at the high school at 7 a.m. We're out of there by 2:45. We might be running like an after-school program, doing some hip-hop therapy from 3:30 to 4:30, and
Yeah.
then we jet over to the Department of Corrections and work with grown men from 6 to 7, right? And it's all hip-hop induced, and on my way there, I'm listening to hip-hop, right? So I think because we stay so grounded in working with young people, we get to stay in the loop, to your point, right? With the lingo. And I tell people, they're like, I don't understand that. I'm like, so pull up the lyrics and read them, right? If you don't understand it, and once you read the lyrics, you start to understand the mumble, right?
I bet you if you just handed them lyrics and they never heard the song, and then they heard the song, they'd be like, that's not the same song. But these are words. They're saying things.
And there'll be content in like 2 bars, and it'll just blow your mind. And I think it's important to do that. 2 years ago, I had a young lady stop by my office, and I'm not her school social worker. This other lady at the time was, and she said to me, Miss, what do you mean by hip hop therapist? So I explained to her how hip hop is my thing and how I use it to connect. And she came back about 2 periods later with a little piece of paper and 2 songs written on it, right? And they weren't hip hop songs. They were more like pop music. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sit through these and I'm going to read the lyrics. And one of them was Boys Will Be Boys. And in this song, the lady's talking about how boys could be so reckless, so women always being told to cover up, to not be outside in the dark. And it's talking about the unfairness of that and how we're taught all these things to do to avoid it, but how men aren't being told how to behave properly towards a young lady. Right. And the song absolutely blew my mind. And I'm like, wow, this young lady has been through something. So I went to that clinician and I said, I need you to listen to these 2 songs. And when you're done, come to me. I have something to tell you. And she did. And she came back to me and I said, this was your student that came and gave me those songs. You have some work to do. And I think at that moment, that clinician also understood the power that hip hop can have on therapy.
Yeah. All right. Now, those are some real testimonies right there. Testify. Come on. What now let's look at this kind of holistically. You're not you're doing great work. You're in the schools, you've got some institutional support. We see that in certain parts of the country, particularly, they're trying to make what you do less prevalent in schools and institutions. So it's important to have, like, you have nonprofits and, you're kind of a standalone organization so that you're able to, do the Saturday school kind of model if you have to, if they, kick you out of enough schools. What do you see, generally speaking, industry-wide, that either, I don't know, hinders, what pushback have y'all gotten, if any, like when trying to take this programming to some places that don't fully get it or don't, because a lot of people trying to do this kind of work and they get smacked down sometimes, or they don't know how to approach. What are, I guess, some ways that you've been able to get places that maybe don't have that, don't know what hip hop therapist means, but are at least open-minded enough to hear your pitch? What are you seeing industry-wide overall? Is this becoming easier to do? Was it becoming easier to do until a few things happened, this past year? What's the state of the hip hop therapy union?
I have to say, and I don't know if you agree with me, but you could definitely put in. I would say, I don't think that we've actually encountered doors closing. I actually think that when we come to the table, people are so intrigued by the fact that we're licensed, clinicians, and that we're utilizing this method to connect with kids. I think it makes a lot of folks that we've encountered very curious, right? Like, we presented to the school social worker of what is it, School Social Workers of America Association, right, in Utah, right? And it was very well received, right? We play some music, we play a versus game, so we let everybody try it, right? And I think that's the part, is allowing people to feel inclusive and understanding that hip hop is not just for Black folks, right? And I think opening those doors and helping them understand what hip hop is, where it came from, and to me, the geniuses that hip hop is, and how much of a genius the people that created it were, right? Just about even coming to the basketball courts and getting light from the light pole. That was genius. That's another question right there, right? So really,
I do a whole PD on tech and hip hop, and just goes back to all the engineering from Grandmaster Flash redesigning turntables, and like, there's so much brilliance. But
so I think when we come into the spaces and we're able to educate on what hip hop is and the strengths of hip hop, Even listening to Biggie Smalls Juicy when he's talking about, intersections and what sells here and what sells there, right? Like this is brilliant, right?
Yep.
And I think that when we open that door to that brilliance, I think that allows people to stop and listen for a minute. And once we got their ear, right, we become like contagious. Like now you feel like addictive. Now, like I'm not gonna let you not like me now.
Right.
We presented in rooms where everybody was in a suit and tie, and we came in in Timbs and hoodies, right? And we're talking
100%.
like, we're talking to like judges and lawyers, and they're looking at us like, what do these people got to bring to the table? And I'm like,
Right.
you hang on tight. We got a surprise for you, right?
right.
So I
That's
think
right.
mostly, and then we work in the school district. So even when we show up and we're like, we're doing this work and we're already doing these work in the school district, well, we've experienced when I got more school districts come in and say, hey, can you come down and do an assembly?
That's great. That's
You know?
great. Yeah, I'm glad to see that and again, you're in New York, so it's not like you're in Florida because that ain't happening there. You know what I mean? But it's promising that under the right under the right circumstances, under the right when you have the right support, that and again, look, I do the same thing. You've seen me out in the world presenting and and doing things. I do the same thing. I love being the only hip hop person in the room. Because you're gonna learn today, and I'm gonna bring all y'all with me because I'm just gonna. I bet you better take notes because I'm about to drop 50 names of people doing brilliant work that you're gonna not even know, existed before this moment. So I get that, and that's promising, and I'm glad that these opportunities are happening. How do you guard against? I guess again, I'm thinking holistically because I know that people watch what you're doing and saying, I'm trying to figure out my way to do similar kind of work. So I'm kind of saying, for those who might be looking to get into this line of work or whatever, how do you guard against inauthenticity or like folks who are, not using the culture in a, I guess, so what I'm looking for, like we might be using it in a disingenuous way just to make it a gimmick or just to try to do what y'all doing without actually doing what y'all doing.
So the young people that you work with, kids know real from fake, right? From phony. So just being authentic in the work that we do. And one of the key questions we always like to ask young folks, even adults we enter the room with that say they're working with young people, we tell them you want to be effective with your young people, get to know your young people. Don't come there and tell them this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
No. Because it's nothing. What happens often, the message is that, oh, this kid is bad. And it's like, what's wrong with you? It's not what's wrong with you. It's what happened to you, right? What did you go through? And it's about being able to listen to the young people and know that they're going to know if you're phony and if you're real. And we have these conversations. We tell the young adults and we tell adults, you got to get comfortable with your young people. Get out of your lane. Don't say that you can't connect with them because you don't look like them. That's an absolutely false narrative and is an easy cop out. Yes, you may not know their struggle. You may not know the strength that they're going through, but it doesn't mean that you can't listen and want to genuinely learn. So when we show up to the room, we show up as ourselves. So we create the energy. Sometimes in the room you shape it, we create the energy from when we walk into any room.
Yeah, that's valuable lesson to learn that you can be involved in this, even though you're not of, by, for the culture itself directly. Plenty of people are doing it, but it's a matter of how you approach it with intent, right? With intent and purpose,
Yeah.
and learning from brilliant practitioners like yourselves that are leading the way.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me what's on the agenda. What are y'all, is it steady work? Is it, are you doing things, are you looking to expand or, what is it that's happening now and where would you like to take the work that you do moving forward if you had all the,
Or the funds in the world.
That genie bottle. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's usually where it comes down to, right?
Yeah. They gotta get it. The funds. Generally, I think we're in a good space, right? We are a grass, organization, right? Grassroots organization. We do the work, we put the work in, we do everything from the CEO to the janitor and everything in between. We handle it. But I think ultimately right now we are absolutely booked and busy, right? We have after school programs, we have the DOC, we do retreats with young folks. We do conferences. We actually have Roxanne Shante speak at one of our young lady conferences where she really talked about her deal with relationships. And, we all, well, at least most of us know Roxanne's story where,
Right.
she was very poorly treated by her partner, and I think that even bringing people like her to the floor really allows kids to see that, wow, like, this is a real thing. So we want to continue to expand doing that. Actually, we were talking and discussing with some folks at Yonkers doing like a talent show / fashion show, right? Because fashion is part of the culture, it's part of hip hop. So maybe allowing young folks to come out and share their talent. And we don't hone them into what they can and cannot do, but we do stress to them to bring that to the platform, right? What you've learned in therapy, what you get from therapy, what you get from hip hop, and they really hone in on writing their bars around that. And so we just continue to. We're actually presenting for the National Association of Social Workers here in New York in May about hip hop therapy. So when you ask do we want to expand, I want to expand this to everybody. I want everybody to know about hip hop therapy. And in the past, I had someone say to me, and I had to take a step back because I was still I had to stay my professional self. And her statement to me was, well, what if hip hop is not in my lane? I was like, I said, we're not in this profession to be in our lane. We're in this profession to be in their lane.
Their lane.
And if you are not a hip hop person and you utilize hip hop in a session with a young person, you're letting that person know that you're open to knowing all about them, their experience, their culture, what they connect to. So you don't have to love it, but be open-minded to understanding it. And I think that those are a lot of the pieces when we talk about expanding. When we talk to these clinicians in these big spaces, right? We really hone into that because I think a lot of people feel like, well, if I don't do hip hop, I can't do this. And it's like, no, I think you can learn a little bit from hip hop just because that's the way you think.
And I guess as far as the community initiatives for 2026, we're doing another free store. Like we said, we've done it for the past 5-6 years. We're finding a location. We've done a gallery when it was open. We did Bay Plaza last February. Ridge Hill 2 years in a row. We just did one at Jefferson Valley Mall. And we're looking at coming back down to Westchester. Literally, we have our families sign up. We connect with shelters, local organizations, and they sign their families up. They come out and they shop for free. Everything is brand new. We're getting ready for a sneaker giveaway, bomber socks, t-shirts, you name it. We outside because you have to serve the whole child, which is also part of the family, right? We got to make sure everyone is good, and that's
take care of that village.
Yep, exactly.
Like JC said, you buy the neighborhood. That's how you rent it, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's admirable work, obviously, and I love that too because talk about staying in your lane. Like you're doing after school programs, you're doing the therapy, you're doing you're licensed social workers, but you also like doing a sneaker drive and you doing the the back to school stuff. And I was gonna show up at your gala. I was almost coming to your gala, by the way. I was gonna surprise y'all. I was in the area because I don't live there anymore. But I was in the area, but I had something at the same time, and I was mad because I wanted to come support.
We have some people in the room. You already know.
I know. Well, there's always next year. But yeah. So I see what y'all doing, and obviously that's why I wanted to talk to y'all. Long overdue. But I'm glad to see this. Now, the most important thing is that nobody will know about this if they don't follow y'all. So, what are the socials? What are the ways you have a mailing list? What are the ways that people can be tuned in to what y'all are doing, especially in the upstate, Yonkers, Westchester, wherever y'all really operate,
So we go
regularly.
Everywhere. We're definitely not.
I know you'll go. I know that, and also so they can reach out and say, "Hey, come to where we are." So both of those things.
So our organization tag is Teens Under Construction, all one word put together because teens are under construction. Right, building to be better them. Personally, I'm at the Hip Hop Therapist, and yeah.
And so they can follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn. For the older heads, Facebook. That people on Facebook.
Yeah, I know. It's just like and Mitchell Robinson for some reason from the Knicks. I don't know why he's an old soul, but it's what it is. All right, dope. So that's how listen, internets, do the job, follow the good folk, and get tuned in. If you're not in the area, find a way to bring them to your area. If you can't do that, learn from what they're doing and follow the example. So that's my preach. Is that don't tell us that there's nobody out here using hip hop for good. Don't tell us you don't know how to do it. Don't tell us you don't know who to support. Y'all take donations. Y'all take tax deductible donations. Come on, let's go.
Yep.
So there's
deductible receipts.
That's right, 100%. So, so I appreciate what y'all do. I look forward to crossing paths again in real life. Again, which we did done briefly in the past. And if there's anything y'all are doing, I got my newsletter. I got the show. I got the podcast. I'll walk around the streets with slips of paper to let people know what y'all doing. So anything I can do to spread the word. Is there anything else that you'd like to get across that I might not have covered? Anything you want to point out, or just closing statements?
My closing statement is hip hop turns pain into power and allows you to have a voice. Don't count us out.
And I'll close out with don't allow anybody else to write your story. Your current chapter is not your final chapter.
Okay, bars. All right. Of course, these are like hip hop heads bringing these bars at the end of the show. I appreciate y'all both. Thank you so much for your time and really for your work and dedication to, people, young and old, hip hop, the culture, school, education, and just being down ass folks from the Bronx. That's what's up.
Great.
All right. All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
As we like to say in New York, your dope conversation. Thank you. They in the chat right now. Give it up one time. Yay. Come on, kids. Big shouts to the folks from Teens Under Construction. Thank you for your time, for your dedication, for your work. Thank you for rocking with me here on Hip Hop Can Save America. If you thought this was valuable, people who are listening either on Substack, salute to you, or on YouTube, give this a thumbs up, give it a like, give it a heart, give it a share. Make sure you're subscribed. I do the live streams, but I drop other videos, pretty, I don't want to say pretty frequently, but every now and then, and I'm getting better at putting out more content. You know why? Because some of y'all support me, and you support me at patreon.com/Manny Faces. If you think this is valuable work, we have to support the people doing valuable work. It's just the way of the world now. So please, if you can, if you feel so empowered, patreon.com/Manny Faces, or the newsletter, which you could do for free, is still support. So if you can't put out a couple of dollars every month, that's fine. Go to the newsletter, mannyfaces.substack.com. You'll get way more content like this, way more insights and gatherings and news that you can feel good about, like this. And you can also subscribe there, put a couple dollars into the pot every month as well. Thank you again to folks in the room: AJ Woodson, Andrew Wang, Dr. Raphael Travis, who are supporters. They are paid supporters, and I thank them for doing what they can to help me do what I can to spread the gospel of these good folks. That's what I do. So if you came in late and you missed it, don't worry. The standalone interview will be up tomorrow on YouTube. So again, make sure you're subscribed. You'll see when it drops. So make sure you stick around for that. There will be more segments coming out on the newsletter and on YouTube coming out in a couple of days. Support newsletter. I got that. Where I'm gonna be. So obviously everybody wants to bring Teens Under Construction into their school districts. Super dope. My work here is done. I'm glad I made those connections. Let's make it happen, y'all. Put some money in these pockets of these good folk, but also let these children get these great lessons through hip hop. Speaking just real quick about myself, where I'm going to be in the next, few spots, few days. You can always check me out at my website, mannyfaces.com. There is a calendar. There it is. There's a calendar of events where I'm going to be. Just want to shout out where I'm going to be in case you're where I might be. Kalamazoo. No one's in Kalamazoo, which is not true. I actually know someone in Kalamazoo, although she's an educator as well. And I know educators, so that makes some sense. I don't know random people in Kalamazoo, but if you do, tell them I'm going to be there. February 5th and 7th, I'm going to do a book talk and a meet and greet, and then we're going to have a great community discussion about hip hop saving America, hip hop doing the kind of stuff we talked about tonight with Dr. Candace Lavender. It looks like I'll be in New York City. AJ, who's asking in the chat. We're working some days out, but it looks like it might be February 20th, Friday, February 20th, uptown, somewhere in Harlem. We have a hip-hop panel discussion kind of thing going on with the good folks at Columbia University. Just haven't quite 100% nailed it down, but it looks like it's happening. So if you can, save the date, come to Harlem. the 20th of February. The 21st, I'll be at the Black AF Artistic Freedom Conference at UMass Amherst. It's a full-day conference. I'm doing a presentation, just one of the many brilliant voices and faces and artistic excellence that'll be on display at the Black AF, Black Artistic Freedom Conference. Honored to be at that one. Really honored to be at that one. Like I said, the theme there is TV off, hip hop as the revolution for critical conversations and resistance to conform. So again, a lot of people looking for hip hop to be that revolutionary force. We're going to talk about how it continues to be. Part of the reason is because of the folks that are doing this work. It doesn't always look like music on the radio anymore, y'all. It doesn't just look like protest music anymore. It doesn't just look like fight the power. It looks like teens out of construction. It looks like, you know, what Andrew's doing, what AJ's doing, what Raphael Travis is doing, what I'm doing. That's what it looks like now. It's not just artists making protest music. It's what No Name is doing. It's what Vic Mensa is doing. It's what Vince Staples is doing. It's what, you know, a lot of artists are doing, just not necessarily in the way we used to see it. So believe me, it's happening. I'll be at the European Hip Hop Studies Conference in Groningen, which is in the Netherlands. It's not in Amsterdam. It'd probably be cooler if it was in Amsterdam, but I'm sure Groningen is a very fine place and I'll have a great time. So I'll be there as well. If you're in Europe, or you know people in Europe, you know people in the Netherlands, great European Hip Hop Studies Network conference. I was at the last one in Ireland and actually hung out with some dope scholars from the United States, some dope artists from Europe, and some dope scholars from across Europe. And I love having that worldwide. I don't know if you know this about America, we're very self-centered and US-centric in America. I don't know if you know this. So especially with hip hop, we talk about hip hop. We talk about it a lot of times through a very United States lens. And as I always say, there's a lot that the world got from the US, like hip hop, but there's actually a lot that the US can import back from how they're using hip hop overseas. It's actually beautiful in a lot of cases, politically, connecting communities, doing all the things that we talk about here, but it's being done overseas. So Bong. And then, of course, the Trinity International Hip Hop Festival in April, a multi-day long, it's a 20th year in Hartford, Connecticut, at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And I say conferences, and they're all at colleges. So again, I'll say this 1,000 times. If you're near any of these places, and there's others, again, the newsletter is the best place. The subscribe is right there, don't forget. If you're a teacher and educator, absolutely. If you're a therapist or a counselor, absolutely. If you're a community leader or, you run a nonprofit, absolutely. If you're a mayor or a city council person, absolutely. If you're an artist, absolutely. And if you're a fan of hip hop, absolutely. Don't get put off by the thing. It's a conference. It's at a college. It's the papers and research and presentations. Boring. Nah, man. First of all, no hip hop conference is like that because we always turn up, no matter whether it's Harvard, Rutgers, Howard, UC, University of California, Georgia State. Like I've been to a lot of these things. It's never just like a boring. It's hip hop, y'all. Every time. But all of these things and the way that we need to help see like change in the world from our hip hop community, they're there. And plus young people. And when they see us come and support them, a lot of times they're part of the conference. In Rutgers, the Hip Hop Youth and Research Activism Conference, they put on the conference. We just sit back, we help them out a little bit. It's their conference. So if they're using hip hop as research and activism and we're not there supporting them, we can't complain when the young people not doing the thing if we're not helping the young people do the thing. They're doing it. So let's, use our resources and our energy as grown-ups, as, people that can advocate for them and support them and give our 2 cents and work with them to make the world a better place through hip hop. So these are dope conferences to go to. Once again, thanks to everyone that's been in the chat all night long. I see people on Substack. It doesn't let me see everyone, but if you're watching me on Substack, I'm also on YouTube. More videos drop there than on Substack. This first time on Substack, it worked. The tech is crazy. The stuff I got to do to make this happen, y'all, but I'm doing it. So Yay. Yay me. But Substack, come to YouTube. YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Substack. It's a beautiful synergy going on there. Shouts to Andrew Wang. Shouts to AJ Woodson. Check out these names. Most people who tune in are also doing something in this space and deserve their own time. AJ, we got to get you on the show. Andrew Wang's been on the show. Raphael Travis has been on the show. Another great hip-hop therapy, hip-hop healing. And again, shouts to tonight's guest, Teens Under Construction. If you missed the interview, it'll be up tomorrow as a standalone. That's the one we want to push. We want to get everyone on that one. Not everyone's going to sit through the whole show on the replay here. Shouts to Shamika. Shouts to Fly Lady Die. Shouts to whoever else I missed from earlier tonight. Fan Virgins. Shouts to you and your friend, Bob Knutson. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thumbs up, share it, subscribe it, do all the things. And again, support us if you can. Do a paid subscription at Substack or patreon.com/Manny Faces. I'm going to go, and I have fellowships that I'm trying to get so that I don't have to ask y'all for money. Because if the fellowship pays me to do this work, then I'll just keep doing this work, and they pay me. Until then, nobody pays me. I need y'all. It's up to y'all. So if you found it valuable, please help me out. If not, it's all good. I'll love you anyway. You know where I'm going to be. I gave you shout outs, support, and the newsletter. Standalone interview tomorrow. I'm looking at my notes. Thumbs up, subscribe, and all that jazz. It's my birthday week, y'all. You could really throw me a subscribe now because it's my birthday coming on Saturday, damn it. So shouts to my Aquarians in the building. I will see you, God willing, next Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Tell your friends that when it comes to hip hop being a force for good in this world, particularly in this country, particularly now when we might need it the most we ever have, it's stronger and it's more powerful than ever. And I'll prove it to you every time you hear me speak. So if people are looking for that, tell them to come here.